Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Black Heart is signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. But let me tell you this. This message may be one of the most important ones that I've recorded. When I started this channel in 2015, I started it because I was going to do nothing but just rip up these Middle Eastern mulattoes about their views on race and color while they call themselves Muslim. And let's call it what it is. If you are in fact Muslim, you're not allowed to side with the oppressor against the oppressed. In this case, that means you're not allowed to side with white folks against black folks, or white folks against darker people, or paler people against darker people. Because historically, all the time, with no exceptions that I could find in my studies of history, that is the direction from which oppression has flown, to which it has flown. From white to everyone else, from everyone else to black, from whoever's paler to whoever's darker. All the time, that's what it's been. India had its whole history shaped by that. Even Pakistan was a part of India at that point, and so was Bangladesh. Afghanistan has an insult. And I don't even know exactly which language because all of Afghanistan does not speak the same language, but there's an insult that's understood in pretty much any large city. And this insult means black and ugly, but it's one word, and it's only used for black people, but it means the ugliest of the ugly. That's unacceptable. We didn't do a goddamn thing to Afghanistan. We never tried to cause harm to Afghanistan. No African power or descendants of Africa have ever had any plans that were malicious towards Afghanistan, and yet that's what they've got. That's their view right off the bat. Persian culture, well, they had some of the oldest anti-black literature we could find, although sometimes they wrote it in Arabic. They preceded Europeans in this. And it was a contingent of Persians that went into India. It wasn't Persia that went into India a long time ago and conquered it. It was just a small band from there that went to India and conquered it, and led to the caste system that is the oldest institutionalized white supremacy we can find proof of today. The Hindu caste system precedes European white supremacy, believe it or not. Now, why do I tell you all of this? This is the reason why I started my channel. Just to rub Islam in their faces. Not the Islam that they think, but that Islam that was actually revealed, in which the oppressor is always wrong and God is always right. But I didn't do this in order to change Islam. See, there's no need to change it. It was already revealed fairly. The issue that we see when we see this anti-black sentiment or this anti-melanin preference, even if it's only in the assessment of beauty, is not because of Islam. It is in spite of it. I don't care about the scholars saying that the comparison of the women of paradise to pearls is evidence that it's natural somehow to prefer whiter skinned women. I don't care about them saying that. I would disregard and throw out all the education because in reality, like I've said before, pearls come in 4 colors naturally, and 2 of them are purple and black. So if Allah revealed verses that compared the Hur al-Ain to pearls, and they come in 4 colors naturally and 2 are purple and black, then what this means to me is that, frankly, there's diversity there, like there is in pearls. And this is in no way championing whiteness, but the whiteness of the women of paradise is merely an option, one of many. Just like in this world, the whiteness in women is merely an option of many shades in women and in men, for that matter. That's it. Some of you have come onto my page and or comments, and you said that uh, Islam is not for black people. I'm going to tell you now, I am always ready and happy to defend your honor and your equality when we're dealing with anybody, period. Be they white or just some semi-white, semi-Negro, confused mulatto, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And see, I don't have anything against people who just happen to have a black parent and a white parent. But when you act out the stereotype of the tragic mulatto from Hollywood, but you come from a culture that precedes Hollywood, I got to look at you suspect. But if you are Muslim and you're still doing this, then I got to look at you like you're not Muslim, because apparently something is more important to you than what God revealed. So that means that your religion is white supremacy and its false God is whiteness, as the YouTuber Bilal Abdullah says so eloquently and so rightly. But when you're black and you come along and you want to say some stuff like this, that Islam is not for black people and it's against black people and it's more white supremacy, and then I have to turn to you and I've got to give you some information. And that is this. First off, you can research Rudolph Bilal Ware. W-A-R-E is how he spells his last name. He's got the receipts. No, it's not against black people. No, it's not more white supremacy. And no, they did not conquer tropical Africa. Naim Abdullah, Naeem space Abdullah. He knows some of this history. And he is actually, he could tell you what the source is. Abdul Hakim Quick, or Abdullah Hakim Quick. His last name is just spelled Quick, Q-U-I-C-K. He could tell you from the history. He actually took a tour once in Tanzania, and they said this is where the Arabs held the Africans that were enslaved before they sent them off. He did the research and came to find out that the British had used it as a munition storage building. Just as one example. These are ways that you can find out. Bilal Abdullah could tell you, the YouTuber. That stuff is not true. It's not been true. And Rudolph Bilal Ware and Naim Abdullah actually have the receipts to poke holes in what Chancellor Williams wrote and said. He was not correct. And they could poke holes in it. The Black Dawa Network, that's the name of them. They've been able to poke holes in it. You want to bring Ma'at? Well, they can tell you why that can't compete with Islam for the salvation and liberation of the black nation. They got receipts for it. Check out their channel. Check out their website. They put it into the form of comics, but the historical information in the comics is accurate. But if you look into this and you check it yourself, you'll see it. Then you'll be able to come back and say to me, you know what, Blackheart, the problem is not that you're Muslim. The problem is you ain't Muslim enough. And I look forward to the day that you all come back and tell me this. I look forward to the day you come back fully convinced of this faith, and then you tell me that I need to get on it, get better at it, improve in it, grow in it. That is actually going to be a time to admonish me, and you'll be correct. But let's go ahead and talk about why it is that some of you say what you say. And I'm going to address both reasons. The first possible reason is that you believe it because someone you know and trusted who's always been honest has said this. And I don't necessarily blame them if they've always been honest with you, because that means they heard it from someone they could trust. But somewhere down the line, someone lied. And others believed the lie, and the lie circulated 1,000 times before the truth had a chance to get up and put on its pants. The ones who really did not know aren't guilty of lying. They just didn't know. They repeated it. But the truth be told, Arabs are a colorist group of people. Yes, so are the Persians, so are the Afghans, so are the Pakistanis and the Northern Indians, and the Southern Indians for that matter. Yes, they are. However, there is no justification in the religion for this, just like the Christians could tell you you can't justify it in Christianity for real. They'll say that. Even white Christians have disagreed on what the proper Christian stance towards black folks has been. They've disagreed. White folks, well, guess what? In Islam, they can't justify colorism or racism or white supremacy. There is no such justification. It's not there. They try that, but they can't fully do it. But you didn't know that? Okay, fair enough. Well, I've given you the research to find out that it's not true. Instead of just taking my word for it, I've given you the terms you can look up and they'll come back up. Thank God for the internet and for YouTube. Now, the other reason is going to be because you think that you cannot give up certain things. So instead of being a hypocrite and saying I'll subscribe to it and then not being able to give up these things, you fear hypocrisy, so you just go ahead and reject it. But you reject it for the reason I mentioned earlier. If you think that you're going to drink, eat pork, fornicate, fuss, fight, party, all the forbidden things, even if you were to accept Islam because you're convinced of it, understand that in actuality, you may do some of that for a short time, but you will very quickly outgrow it. Believe that. Especially if you accept this and then you either move to another part of the same town where you're not in the same environment, or you move to another town where you're not in the same environment. Especially if you do that, you will outgrow it. Believe that. You won't do it no more. It will get tiresome. It will seem childish and beneath you. That's when you really mean it. If you come into this and you continue learning, these things will become much, much easier to avoid, and eventually they'll even become hard to practice anymore. You get to a point where going to the club is more irritating to you than staying at home, not going to the club. People won't be able to drag you to a nightclub after a while because you'll see how dumb it is. You get to a point where the alcohol becomes disgusting to consume. The pork becomes disgusting to consume. Fornication is not going to be a thrill anymore. You won't like it. You won't enjoy it. And you won't miss it. You will get to these points. Now, marriage, yeah, that's fine. But you'll get to a point you don't want to fornicate. You get to a point where you don't even want to eat unhealthy stuff all the doggone time. You actually do get to this point. If you keep learning, even if you learn slowly, bit by bit, you do get to this point, and that does not take long. But be honest with yourself. Be honest. If you're really against this for black people, and I've given you these terms and you still won't research them and get that out the way, you still want to insist on the same narrative about how unsuitable it is for black people, then be honest with yourself. Are you really against it because you want to party and fornicate and drink and tear up that ham sandwich? Is that really the case? If you think that you're not capable of the self-discipline required, like I said, it comes in stages. But also, remember, when it comes to our income, we are capable of such self-discipline. People have jobs requiring them to wake up early for decades, and after the first 5 years, they can't wake up late anymore. This happens to some people. Why not have this for your own spiritual benefit as well? It's actually, in steps, easier than you think it is. What's really holding a lot of you back, Once you know that this narrative of it being anti-black is not true, is your fear of being a hypocrite. And hypocrisy is not the same thing as a human weakness. Those are two different things. Hypocrisy is when you're doing it and you trying to justify it, or you trying to justify it for yourself but not for others, or you trying to justify it for somebody else but not for others. These are the definitions of hypocrisy. You saying, no, we're not supposed to drink as Muslims, and then you drink in private. It's not hypocrisy. It's a sin. It's wrong, but it ain't hypocrisy. If you were caught doing it, you might deny that it's alcohol, but you wouldn't say it's okay to drink. And that's the difference. So many of you do fear hypocrisy, but you fear it more than you fear other things as though they're hypocrisy. And so once you remove both of these, you really don't have any reason not to come on in and join us. But you'll have to find out for yourself. Nobody's here to force you. But do the research. In any case, if you come in and you want to ask questions, that's fine. But if you come in and you say to me, or you try to tell my audience that it's just white supremacist and anti-black, I'm just going to go ahead and take the comment out, because I've given you the terms that you can look up to find out that that's not true and how they lied and why. There is a reason that the NOI, which is not Islam, was pushed on us, that the Moorish Science Temple, which is a change that makes it not Islam anymore, was pushed on us, and that Al-Islam, Sunni Islam, has not actually been promoted amongst us by any outside powers. There's a reason for it. J. Edgar Hoover himself said in the 1940s, before there was a Malcolm, that his fear for the United States was not a foreign power, but that the American Negro would find out about Islam as it was revealed, or that as it authentically was. If this was a fear that he voiced. You want to strike a blow to white supremacy, the first step is actually probably going to be this one. Because this is the last religion that is a holdout against white supremacy. Hinduism started as white supremacy. Judaism has failed and been taken over by Zionism to a certain extent. And even a lot of them are sick of that stuff. Christianity, we already know they changed it around. It was not a white supremacist religion, but they changed it into one. Or they fooled the world into thinking that it was one. The last one that is actually a holdout against it is this one. And truth be told, nobody is in a better position to tell the ignorant, tragic desert mulatto that it is against it than black folks. And the Eastern Europeans who are already Muslim, they also hate that white supremacy stuff. And that's the irony of it. That's a topic for another day, though. I've delivered the message. The blood is off my hands. Thank you for listening. Black Heart signing, black out. Assalamu alaikum.